Welcome back, folks, to the 3v3 action. We are once again going to be checking in on Mr. and the Spanish Bros. That's right. One team, we've got Mr. in the red, not to mention Lucifron in the blue, and then, of course, another blue. Far to the north is going to be Vortex. But on the other side, Mr. Sausage Man has switched out one of the people we saw him with earlier. Salami will be in the green, but he'll be joined by Recon this time. Britsky playing as the French in the center, and then, of course, rounding out Zertin. Did get the Chinese down here in the orange. So, interesting layout. We've got double French, double Mongols, but then the difference is one side went Chinese and the other went for the Ottomans. Now, I would kind of favor the comp on the right-hand side just because of, you know, the amount of Ottoman games we've seen, how dominant they've been, and how Chinese almost feels like it becomes a bit of a bait in a lot of the times we've seen it in team games in the past, at least at the highest level. You know, when you talk about something below pro, when you're playing for a later timing, Chinese make a lot of sense. But when the game gets aggressive and gets aggressive fast, this Civ can somewhat feel like it's at the side saying, I'll be there soon, bro. Don't worry. By the end of the second movie, like Gandalf, I will ride in just in time. That timing can be a little bit tight. Meanwhile, on the other side, because you've got these two potentially aggressive Civs in the French and the Mongols, but you're backing up the Ottomans that passively progress towards a kill point in the game just through massing troops for free with the military schools, you can see it's more feasible for Team 1 to group together and push for a win earlier on. We'll see if it plays out that way, though. It is a fairly big map. I think this is... I believe this is a Dry Arabia. Man, they've done something weird with the spawns, because I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm just misremembering it. The 3v3 tournament we had at the start of the year, Dry Arabia especially had like a more balanced kind of circular feeling to the spawns. Like, the flanks were closer together, right? Whereas this time around, you know, on one side it's kind of true, but on the other, I mean, they're miles apart. This is kind of absurd. So, not sure if that's just a bug in the generation or if they did actually change something at the core of the way they spawn team games. But I miss the old format. I like the idea of people being kind of pressured against each other early on. And then you have this kind of loose maverick at the back that can do whatever they want in the center position because they aren't directly spawning next to an opponent. But let's see what the open's going to be from Vortex. He did open up immediately with the military school. And he didn't go in for more stone just yet. You know, sometimes we see people look to pump the stone already to gather up in prep for the tech up, right? You can kind of switch over maybe to have the stoneworkers build the Madrisse, for example. This time around, though, Recon, did I see something different? Okay, no, I'm just getting baited by the UI icons. It's School Cavalry. You know, I'm used to just having it written on the text on the screen via the Capture Age tool. I'll get used to seeing the icons again. We did see the racks opening coming out from Salami, kind of anticipating that the Ottoman player might be pushing 3 units towards him. But so far, that hasn't really been fully leveraged, right? You see, he's actually just kind of on guard, patrolling around a little bit, but hasn't been trying to dive in. And I'm not even sure if he knows yet. Yeah, so I don't think they scouted out that this is Salami on the north side. So you're going to get even less value trying to push a spear early like this. One, because the Mongol player is likely going to mirror your movement. But two, because usually the Mongol players have a very condensed format. Unless they get unlucky on the gold spawns, which kind of happened here for Salami. But it's so far away at the back, he should be safe. In fairness, if Salami had won, he could have went for the northern tree line, kept his gold close, and had double stone in influence of the TC. Zertin. Yeah, Zertin is going to be going for the greedy, as expected. There were some early spears coming out. This is good work by Salami. So it looks like he just shifted all attention south side to mirror the position of the other Mongol player. Remember, Mist is playing the Mongols in the red here. So he's just basically running across the map to block this attempt, but it's dangerous what he's doing because he still has the looming threat of the Ottoman player right next to him. There's a risk that Salami is going to be pulled 2 ways, and it's going to leave him a little bit too thin to defend either position. But one thing that both the Mongol players are going to have in common is the choice to go into the Silver Tree. So we are going to get some trade happening in this game. And honestly, I think it makes quite a lot of sense for Team 1. Team 2, you know, you can kind of get away with it with such a big map compared to going Deerstone. But for Team 1, the importance of this is that you've got an Ottoman player, right? The Ottoman player kind of has this ability to be ultra-aggressive around 20-25 minutes in a prolonged feudal state, while that means that you don't have a late-game boomer, right? You don't have the Chinese that is on the other side. So this kind of pads that issue. And then, of course, the French are no joke in that late game either. But you can see how, when you think about these compositions, if this does go late enough, you do start to favor Team 2 if we take away the elements of like what they're looking like, what were the fights on the way there. If we just say, yeah, let's arrive in a very, we had peacetime for 20 minutes, we boomed up eco and tech-wise, you would favor Team 2's comp. But that isn't often how AoE games work. So Bargain Follow-Up does come out. Sazertin now 1.5 TC effective. I think his goal is going to be Castle Age as quickly as possible to pass guard in this type of game. And I think you want to be as fast as possible about it. Like, take advantage of the fact that usually the Ottomans are maybe a little bit slow to escalate, especially in team games, as we're only now seeing the secondary military school come out. No Blacksmith either yet, so not getting those increased production rates. Did go for the Madrasa drop away from the TC, so it doesn't have that immediate garrison point if he comes under fire. But this is something that you can take liberty with in team games more so than 1v1s. Like, having the Madrasa here instead of right next to your TC could kill you in a 1v1 because you get blocked on your berries. But in this situation, you know, if you're being blocked on your berries, you've got bigger concerns than not getting the food in that moment because you're probably under full siege from 2 to 3 players. Interesting play by Recon. Wow, yeah, okay, this is peculiar, but somewhat effective. Recon, he went into Horsemen and neglected Knights entirely. It seems weird, right? Like, you're up against another French player, these Knights could overwhelm you, but the issue that Lucifron might run into is, like, when he has to run away on such a big map, these Horsemen are going to pick him apart. Now, it's not going to be a quick kill by any means, right? Like, if you look, you see the damage is 9, 3 armor, so you're only doing 6 damage per poke. But over time, this is going to allow him to strip away Lucifron's troops. It becomes less effective later on, around 10 to 12 minutes, when Chivalry's on the table for Lucifron, because then he can offset the damage long term. But for now, it's not the worst idea. It also means that Recon ticks the box of the body blocker. If they take a fight together 3-on-3, his goal is going to be to stop his opponents from moving away when they get an advantage. And of course, in the meantime, he gets to choose if he even wants to fight, which is always a glorious thing. Seems like he's also prepping for the standardized Ottoman build at the moment, which is the double archery range, possibly into triple as well. In fact, it is going to be triple here. So these horsemen will keep great value in this game because of Vortix's choice. And oh my... Did he miss that? No way! Recon! He has the scout here, but he chose not to go after the silver tree. Wow, that was a golden opportunity literally there because Mr. needs that gold. He's going into Magadai. If he got blocked out and the silver tree gets burned down, this really strips away his ability to get what should be a pretty effective unit in this game against most of what they're facing. You know, the horsemen, the French might seem good until you remember the Magadai can easily just disengage via the Khan, especially even more so if they get a few of these outposts set up that the Mongols love to spam. The Recon, this count, it's getting pretty hefty, up to 12. Mr. has to be careful to be paying attention at all times. Remember, he's paying a premium for these Magadai. 40 food, 120 gold compared to the 100 food, 20 wood cost for Recon per horseman. Magadai most definitely won't kill those horsemen quickly. 7 damage, but 2 ranged armor on the horses. Well, speaking of ranged things, Vortix is looking to turn Recon a little bit deranged here. The amount of archers that are on the way. It's the constant Congo line making their way across towards the French base. An interesting choice here because usually the central player is the less defended. They're defended by their position, but not by the way they build. Usually the flanking players build more military, they build more defenses, something like what we're seeing out of Zertin here with walls. And the central player is a bit more greedy. So it looks like their goal is to target the central player and punish him for the perceived greed. But we can see it's not too greedy out of Recon. So many horsemen here. They need to be guarding fast because it looks like a strike in by the Sipahi is going to find the trade being set up by Salami. Luckily for him, Vortix has not gone after that villager. He could very easily. He definitely saw it here. Instead, he's trying to target trade. Oh, Vortix. Yeah, that was a little bit too close. The meta seemed to have ran it into a few spears. I find that's usually bad for your health. However, he just baited the army towards their death here. Even the Khan can go down. The spearmen are going to be picked apart before they can target onto the Knights. They got in too deep. It looks like Salami was not looking. Great strategy there. Great bait coming out from the 2 Spanish bros. And all of a sudden, they're postured well to push in here. They won't target the Mongol player because really all you have to do to shut him down is kill the trade. But if they go after the French player, that could stop Recon from being this kind of tempo setter with all these horsemen. With which these horsemen right now are still getting reasonable value in the back corner. Magadai are going to be forced to respond Knights as well. So it looks like Recon is eventually going to have to walk away here. In fact, Recon... Oh, he's got the scout in the formation. I mean, that's quite awkward because it means that he can't get out of range of the Magadai quickly here. Instead, he's going to lose multiple horsemen because of this. Oh, man, that feels so rough. He finally peels them off. A little bit too late, and it means you're still going to lose the scout at the end of this, but on top of it, you plus 3 horsemen into that situation. It's a good strike coming out from Mr. Always the important thing to remember, folks, formations, they can be your curse in these type of games. And it kind of sucks because Recon didn't make a suboptimal play in taking the scout out there. He needs it to spot out any targets of opportunity. But keeping in the formation really cost him dearly there. Now it's cost them at home as well. The Rams are starting to dive into the Mongol base here. Chuginu are going to scare them away, so Zertan is starting to participate in the game. But I like the fact that they leaned away from Zertan's base intentionally, really. Like, this is a very strong point for Chuginu up against a lot of what's being pushed on the other side. So they deliberately played to the opposite side of the map so that Zertan couldn't be involved instantly in these battles. Skirmishes continue. Chuginu will turn around to deal with the Ram, the assistance of the Horsemen. Archers need to keep backing away, though. They need assistance right now. I'm wondering where the hell Lucifron's army is. He sent a few Knights out to skirmish, but he's only got 8 in total, so he got obliterated in that dive. Archers. Now they're getting picked apart fast here. Knights are at least going to tickle away at the Chuginu now. But this is not a fight to take. I think there's a risk that Lucifron's just kind of Congo lining to his death here. Body blocks are even going to come in from Recon to make sure that more Knights go down. He has at least now got the Chivalry, but you can see how fragile Knights can feel up against these comps in 3v3s. A unit that has always been so dominant isn't looking that right now. The unit that is looking dominant is Mister's choice here. The Magadai are going to take out the ponies. Traders on the backside from Salami completely unguarded. And remember, he's running a static army, so reacting isn't quick. And he wanted to go Magadai as well, so any damage done here is going to be felt down the line, considering they're both building the same unit type. And this is the difference, right? You see, now that they get the breathing room on the other side, Mister, he originally had Spearman patrolling just in case. And now they're going to set up walls courtesy of Lucifron to protect that trade. Pretty cool play. Meanwhile, on the other side, they haven't done the same. Here's the weird part. And, oh man, you know what it is? Like, this is a very big difference what's happened here. If you see where Salami has set up his trade route and then look at Mister, it looks like they set up the same trade route, right? But they didn't. Instead, Mister set up his trade route in the back corner where his teammates could easily wall and would actually insulate him with their bases. Salami is only defending it himself. He only set this trade up in a way that he protects it. There's no quick walling opportunity that Recon can bring out or Zertan can bring out because they're far away from where Salami is sending his trade. If anything, he's sending it further into no man's land. That small difference, that's going to matter because it's going to give opportunities for them to wrap around. Like when you start losing fights in this type of area, look what Lucifron does. Instantly goes north because he knows the premium target's up here. And you'll never be able to do the same. Like you can see these horsemen try to wrap in, but between the spearmen, everyone's bases being close by, there's only so much Recon can do, and it feels like it's never going to be enough here. On the other side, these Knights are going to wreak havoc. So much damage coming out, and even with the Yam movement speed, these traders just aren't quick enough. Poor little Salami. I mean, we call him Donkey sometimes. It seems kind of appropriate because they're making an ass out of him. This is not the trade that he was looking for. So many traders dead. And we can see the difference now. If we compare the two, if we check on Salami, we can see that he has got a mere 12 traders. Let's check Mister. 18. And that was after he got harassed first. And he's still being harassed, but he keeps that lead. In fact, 3 horsemen have been kind of ignored throughout all this. So the Knights are finally going to go there to clean up the last of it. But definitely more deaths here than were necessary. Meanwhile, towards the base of Salami, though. It's not just his trade being shut down that's a problem. His food might be shut down at this rate. Ram's going to move in. Archers are here with the assistance of the meta. So Chuginu, they need to be careful. It's not as one-sided as it usually is. It's definitely still going to favor Zertan. But it really does come down to optimizing your micro. So they are going to back off for the moment. Lucifron has had his fun. Walls are finally going to start being constructed by Recon. Going to take a while to get those up, though. Right now, you see they're just using Salami's base as a funnel point now. Directing all attention over there. These Rams are a pricey investment for Vortex. Don't really feel like they paid off. Oh, just Salami? Okay, he really wanted that knight. It's okay. Who needs a Khan anyway? It actually is pretty crippling to lose your Khan in team games because remember, the arrows do affect your allies. It's a very big deal. Imagine if you had the maneuver arrow for these Chuganu as they gap close. You're just able to stick on top of the archers, even when they're trying to run away with the meta movement speed buff. Looks like Lucifron is starting to be a bit of a crafty bugger here. I like this choice. You know, he's done enough in the main fights. Now he just wants to skirmish, skirmish, skirmish. Lucifron is a guy who has kind of built his reputation off of raiding. This guy loves raiding more than almost any other player in the pool. So I'm glad to see him actually leaning into that and not just getting bogged down in these big Titan-level clashes between all three players on each side. And instead, he's now going to make his way up. Remember, he got about 60 knights, so this is a good time to go for Raw Institute. Means he could instantly pivot into Raw Bloodlines, and it would be worthwhile. Could even see a world in which Mister gives him a bit of gold to get that faster, because it's going to give them that buffer, that front line that will last. I believe he's the only one making his way up. Okay, Recon is mirroring it, so it looks like they've both got to read on this correctly, and Recon also making the choice. Wow, okay, no, he's not. He's going for Guildhall. Oh, this... If they don't hold well in the next 5 minutes, I mean, this is going to be wide. Like, this is a very important thing. He went for green instead. It's good if you outlast and make your way into Imperial eventually, but if this becomes a prolonged Castle Age, Lucifron now has a dominant edge. Now, it's not as bad as you'd normally think for Recon, because he didn't go mass Knights, he went mass Horsemen. But it means that right now, Team 2 don't actually have a front line. Right? You've got Chuganu coming out from one player, you've got Magadai coming out from the other. Nobody's actually providing a solid front line like Lucifron will for the other side. Although that front line... okay. They were trying to get back to the front line through the Chuganu formation. Probably not the best way to do it. Oh, yeah. I'm starting to wonder if, like, Vortex feels that these Rams were ever worthwhile. It's kind of weird how many he's built and how many have been destroyed. But finally, they do bait the Chuganu out. Zertan taking a fight in the mid-map. Maybe a mistake here. He doesn't have the assistance of any allies. Instead, these Knights are going to tank up the damage from the repeater crossbowmen, and that means the archers now have the edge. You can see the count. Vortex crawled up to double the count of the Chuganu in the field. Attack speed arrow is going to come out, but the Chuganu run away. Zertan, he panics when he sees the first of the Lancers, so instead of utilizing that attack speed arrow, he runs for the high hills. And it's not too far left that you can run back here. Archer count is still looking damn healthy for Vortex. Now, behind this, Zertan is going to need some assistance, because right now, it feels like he's changing the diapers of both of his teammates. I haven't really felt the impact of Recon or Salami in the last two fights. And that is by design, by the way. It is Zertan's job to just boom up economically as you do with the Chinese, and then leverage that into effective Chuganu. But the time has passed, right? The sun is setting on this empire. You need something else to take over, because as we just saw, Mister's now pushing Lancers. You're going to be up against chunky French Knights with Raw Institute buffs. Chuganu can't do anything. They're just going to be thrown to the wolves here, so someone else has to take over. Vortex now making his way up. Looks like we are getting at the Mehmed Imperial Armory, so if the Chuganu felt kind of irrelevant already, I don't want to know how they're feeling now. I mean, that's going to be a hello darkness, my old friend moment right there. Lucifron going back into the eco. There's an opening here right down the center. They can snipe trade again. It's not going to take much. Just 4 or 5 of these Knights could do a lot of damage, because I'm pretty sure Salami either hasn't upgraded any of these outposts or already upgraded them with archers. So there are no Springwood emplacements. And just like that, they're in. And it's going to happen again. On the other side, you're not really seeing any sort of mirrored move here. It's just not accessible anymore. And in fact, it's not just Mister trading now. It's also Lucy. Interestingly enough, Recon has not done the same. Recon is just trying to get an army together, and a raid comes into his base at the worst of times for him. Lancers and Magadai are in. Now remember, these veteran Royal Knights in purple do not have the Royal Institute buffs. They're no stronger than your normie Knights at this stage, which means they are going to be swarmed and overwhelmed by Mister. I mean, this is starting to fall apart. Salami, where's the army? Honestly, I'm underwhelmed. 10 Spearmen, 10 Magadai? That's not going to put a dent in them. once Salami has this tech up, the Magadai can be somewhat useful, right? Their damage booster makes him effective against Knights, but he's only now teching up. He's the slowest one to do it in this game, and you can't help but feel a lot of the flow of this game came back to the way that he set up his trade route and how exposed it was at the early phases of the game. That set him back so far, and you can just see the day and night difference between how he's looking and how Mr. is. In fact, Mr. might have problems on the way, though. Because while we're talking about the north side, Zertan finally got active on the south. Chuge army on the move. Trebs being set up out of a siege workshop, and a keep with multiple outposts to stabilize him in the area. Mr.'s about to come under fire. And Recon has moved in on the south side as well. They've switched the script. They flipped it. And now all they need to do is survive on the north side. Salami is under fire. Mass army is pushing in. It's a race to see who can eliminate who first. Chuge diving, though. Like, these are not heavily armored units, right? And not fast compared to the meta movement speed archers. But he's moving deep because they want to shut down the trade. Now that's going to happen on both sides at this rate. Billy's being sacrificed. Primary TC now being targeted by the Rams. They need to do more damage as Team 1. It's not good enough that they're just targeting Salami, which is why they are still in the economy of Recon, and they have drawn fire away from Mr.'s base. It's only a small retinue of Knights diving into the Mongol base on the south side. Still dive-ins coming out from Vortex. Vortex is doing a lot of work here. He's carrying the aggression on this side. Lucifron is doing a great job raiding Mr. as well, but Lucy and Mr. now have to work together to defend, which is exactly what they do. Look at the damage done here. The Chuge nuke count now down to 20 and just shy of reaching the trade. Mr. and Lucifron, the patience, the timing when they chose to strike was perfect here, and Zertan was too greedy. He went in before he got the Imperial Age. He just got the Spirit Way. And although you now start to see those plus signs kick in, there's little left to heal. The damage really is done. They're going to be pushed back once more, but I'm now concerned that Salami might be out of this game. Maganel, it might be his one redeeming factor, but there's just too many archers to kill. The villagers are going down. The Knights find their way in onto the Maganel. It's a panic from Salami. He's going to be wiped. And they aren't able to help him. They all-in'd Mr. and they came out short. And because of that, now they, ironically, are going to be the ones losing a Mongol player. It's the pack up and run. That's all Salami can do. It's a landmark down. He needs to get everything else out of dodge here. He's going to pack up the step readout to move away, but Vortex can quickly target that. Remember, when you go into the packed up form, you no longer have ranged armor, so you die quickly to ranged attacks. The only hope he's got is that the Silver Tree is ahead. However, if Vortex notices this and just plows forward with the meta movement speed, he could still take out that Silver Tree and kill Salami off. Of course, it won't eliminate him straight away, by the way. Remember, landmarks being sniped doesn't end you. But every single one of these buildings going down cripples his ability to rebuild, especially when we look at the count and we see that Salami has a total of 0 villages. 0. Oh my god. Okay. I don't know how Salami gets back in this game. Now, remember, his teammates can come out and rebuild the TC. But now everything's pushing east to west, so how do you get back out there? I mean, they're playing as 2.1 players now. And I'm only giving that credit because Salami still has a little bit of trade going, and he has some buildings to build units out of. But this, I mean, this is a heavily crippled Mongols. And now they've, oh god, they found their way in. Zertan never full-walled. So Knights, I mean, they're going to have a field day with this. The villagers, they have got textiles, but remember, these are veteran role Knights, so 3 taps will take them down. The crossbow's now only being masked, so Zertan's going to feel the sting, but also Recon in deep doo-doo here. He says, man the halls, boys. Put the pastures to arms. They'll save us. Use the pastures to body block the choke points, guys. That's the play. It would be the play if Vortex didn't just have mass archers. He's up to 106. Oh, no. Honestly, I'm pretty sure any of these Knights die before they reach their target. I mean, it's 9 damage versus 6 ranged armor. Yeah, one strike, 1 round from all these archers insta-kills a Knight. Oh, God. And just look how deep he goes. I mean, he can afford to sacrifice a few just to keep the pressure on. Rams are going to start diving in. These Knights, I don't even know where they're going. To a different place, a better place, because this is looking dark right now. And you're just seeing the impact that Luciferon was able to have by going for the Royal Institute. Recon, he went greedy. These Knights aren't tanky anymore. They never had this front line. I try to imagine how different the dive into the Mister's base would have been if A, they'd waited for the Imperial Age, and B, they'd had Royal Institute on Recon. But like, you can't take anything away from Mister and Luciferon. Their patience to not rush the defense is why they survived this onslaught. And why now they look primed to take the entire game, especially with this Zertan. He calls GG the moment he sees the Lancers, cannot get the keep up, has no way to recover. Los Polos Hermanos will take the win.